I wanted to talk today about using 15 by 1 needle in my Davis vertical feed, which takes the longer, older style needles. Now what you can see here is the shorter needle is the 15 by 1 and the longer needle is the contemporary industrial needle that fits these machines. They're, as typical with an industrial needle, cheaper than the domestic brands, which is a bonus. So in some ways, if I can get this to work, it's a win-win. Now what you can see is I've put a couple black marks on the needles, and that's the shaft difference between the short needle and the long needle. And the reason I've done this is because when you put the shorter needle in, you have to hold it in by just a tiny little bit at the end. But if you're sewing anything stiff, it's going to push the needle up. So I really was only interested in seeing if I could achieve using the 15 by 1 needles for very small or very lightweight thread and fabric, because these tend to be, they're not available below a size 12, so that because they're sort of railroad spikes practically. So what I wanted to see is if I could find a smaller needle that would go in and would permit me to sew finer fabrics. But when I thought at the same time, maybe if I can get this to work for leather as well, that'd be quite handy. But if I do that, or denim, then what's going to happen is, because there's no support above the shaft, I'll show you later, because the needle's held in just at the end there to make it work. As it hits the fabric, that needle is going to push up. So what I need to do is put something above the needle to keep it from pushing up. And that is in fact what they have on the needle bar for the new vertical feed machine. They've got a spike to keep the needle from riding up, so I'll show you that. So what you can see here is the needle bar from a next generation, the 1920s version of the Davis vertical feed, which has that spike to keep the needle from riding up because it's shorter than the original. So this bar is essentially the same as what I have in my machine, which is from the late 1800s. So it's the second version of the Davis vertical feed, and this is really roughly the same bar, but this thing is in a different place, and these are slightly different shapes, so it doesn't fit. And I was contemplating surgery, but then I thought, since these industrial needles are cheaper, what if I could fiddle with mine to use class 15 by 1 needles in it? So essentially what it looks like when you've got everything together is the needle's held in just by that. But that whole space up there ahead of the knob, that's where the needle would normally have gone. So they haven't really changed this needle bar much. But as you can imagine, if you're sewing heavy stuff, that's going to ride up as it pounds down. So what I need to do is fill in this gap up here on my machine with the needle shaft, and then the whole thing will be screwed in, and I don't think it'll ride up then. And that's what I'm going to do. So those black marks, although they're rubbing off now, which is not very handy, will show me where I need to cut the shaft, and then I'll do a little bit of creative maintenance to figure out how to make this work, and that's what I shall do. So here I have a class 15 by 1 needle in there, and you can see it's held in and it sews perfectly, but you can see at the top there's a gap. That's what I'm going to use the shaft from the other needle and put it in there just to hold that in. It'll come in and out as needed, but that will keep the needle from riding up with use. So here we have the machine working. And you can see I've got that blank in there. There. That is a 15 by 1 needle. I'm sewing through quite thick canvas, even though it's a very small needle. Not missing a stitch, because I made sure I tested that the scarf was in front of the bobbin, and it is. That's working perfectly. So I'm delighted that now I can sew much finer fabric. So what I'm going to do is find some and see what happens. So let's see if we can zoom in. Let me remove the light a bit and make it easier to see. Stitches are perfect, and of course, because I've managed to do a lot of surgery on this machine, the bobbin tension is now no longer a problem, so it gives perfect stitches on the top and the bottom. I'm on a wobbly table here as always. Let me go and get some fine fabric and see what happens. So here we are. This is waterproof stabilizer, single layer of it. I'm not sure whether the tension is going to be a bit wild. It's a bit tight, so it's puckering a bit. But that's easily adjusted. But it is sewing, which is fantastic. But definitely the tension is too high for this. So let me just reduce the bobbin or the needle tension a bit and see if that's enough, or if I have to actually do. Oops. That sounds like it might be too loose now on the bottom, making some unfortunate noises. Yes, I think that was too loose. Yeah, so if you loosen it, so I need to reduce the bobbin tension so it doesn't pull too tight, which is easy, just to screw. So let me do that and see what we can get. Okay, so I've loosened the bobbin tension. Let's see if that does the job now. It's definitely not puckering now. Should actually reduce the stitch length a bit. Too little. Let's increase it a bit. This is a single layer of waterproof stabilizer. And actually tension is very good. Wow. Perfect results. Holy smokes, that's super surprising. Thought I'd have to adjust that loads of times. So because of that, I can now sew super fine fabrics on this machine, which is what I wanted to do. I'm delighted. Another win for these Davis vertical feed sewing machines. You know, now that it's giving perfect stitches, I'm liking this more and more and more. Now that I've motorized it as well. This is my Frankenstein machine for sure, but you know, it sews. Not bad for 120 years old. Very pleasant. So I suppose the next test, which I might do in the future, is still a bit tight, I think, around the curve. My next test will be to see if I can sew leather on it, or I mean the standard industrial needles might do the job, but you know, if I can have a leather point needle on this, it's good. And because the other type of industrial needles, the 135 class, they're the same length as these, they just don't have the flat bit. Those will fit in here as well. So that shouldn't be possible to sew on this as well. So I think I should be able to sew fine silks and everything else on this now, which there's no way I could do with a big railroad spike. Splendid. So we've got white thread in the bobbin and blue thread on top. See the blue there, and you see the white there. Nice.